In June 2025, Rachael Ray stepped onto a red carpet for a rare public appearance at an animal charity event. Fans immediately noticed something was off. Her speech seemed different, her movements careful, and the woman who once bounced through 30-minute cooking segments now looked exhausted. The internet exploded with concern, with speculation, with questions nobody seemed able to answer. But this wasn't the first time people had wondered what was really happening behind Rachael Ray's cheerful facade. For 20 years, her marriage to John Cusimano has been surrounded by whispers of scandal, infidelity, and secrets that refuse to stay buried. And now, as health concerns mount and new revelations surface, the full story of their relationship is finally coming into focus. What emerges isn't the fairy tale they've tried to sell. It's something far more complicated, far more disturbing, and far more real than anyone imagined. The story begins in 2001, when Rachael Ray was on the verge of becoming a household name. She'd already survived poverty so severe she was making just $40 a week, working multiple jobs in New York City until a mugging sent her fleeing back to upstate New York. But her luck was changing. Food Network had just signed her, and her show $30 a Day was about to launch. She was 33 years old, focused entirely on her career, and had essentially given up on finding love. Marriage felt like something that happened to other people, not to women who worked 80-hour weeks and lived out of suitcases. Then came a birthday party that changed everything. A mutual friend was celebrating, and the room was packed with tall people. Rachael, standing at 5'2", found herself surrounded by what she later described as a sea of knees. In that crowd, she spotted John Cusimano, a man about her height with dark eyes and an easy smile. They started talking, and the conversation naturally drifted to food. John mentioned a meal he'd recently cooked, and Rachael immediately jumped to a conclusion. She thought he was gay. In her mind, she was already planning to set him up with another Italian friend. But when John corrected her assumption, something shifted. They kept talking, losing track of time, and when the party ended, they still weren't ready to stop. They stayed up until 4 in the morning, sharing stories and discovering a connection neither had expected. From that night forward, they spoke every single day. For Rachael, John seemed like the perfect partner. He was an entertainment lawyer who understood contracts, negotiations, and the legal minefield of the television industry. He was also a musician, the frontman of a rock band called The Cringe, which gave him a creative side that balanced his professional pragmatism. But there was something John wanted that he'd never been able to achieve. He'd attended Berklee College of Music, one of the most prestigious music schools in the world, but his parents had convinced him to pursue law instead. He became successful, representing clients in the film industry, but his heart was always on stage. Years later, he would admit in interviews that his dream was to be like Trent Reznor, the iconic frontman of 9 Inch Nails. Instead, he was a lawyer who played gigs on weekends. That regret, that unfulfilled dream, would become a quiet tension in their relationship, one that neither of them fully addressed. In September 2005, Rachael and John married at Castello di Vallona, a stunning castle in the hills of Tuscany. The ceremony was intimate, attended by close family and friends, and seemed like something out of a romance novel. Rachael wore a simple white dress, John looked dapper in a suit, and the Italian countryside provided the perfect backdrop for what appeared to be the beginning of a perfect life. But the cracks appeared almost immediately. Just months after the wedding, tabloids began running stories that John had been unfaithful. A woman in Florida claimed she'd had a 5-year affair with him, one that allegedly continued even after his marriage to Rachael. Other reports suggested he'd been involved with paid escorts, some stories even claiming he had unusual requests and strange preferences. The allegations were humiliating, and Rachael was forced to address them publicly on her own show. She told her audience that tabloids were spreading lies, that her marriage was solid, and that people needed to stop believing everything they read. But the rumors didn't stop. They just got worse. In 2013, the National Enquirer published a story that would become the most explosive scandal of their marriage. According to the tabloid, John had been spotted at a private club in New York called Checkmate, a venue known for attracting couples interested in alternative lifestyles. The report claimed he'd been seen there at least 6 times, always accompanied by women who weren't his wife. Witnesses allegedly saw him heading into backroom areas, including showers that he reportedly never used alone. The story painted a picture of a man living a double life, one that his famous wife either didn't know about or was choosing to ignore. Rachael's team immediately issued a denial, calling the story another pack of lies. John's representative said he was considering legal action against the publication, but the lawsuit never materialized. The denial was issued, and then silence. No follow-up, no court case, no further explanation. For many people, the lack of legal action raised more questions than it answered. If the story was false, why not fight it in court? The rumors persisted, and so did the damage to their public image. Behind closed doors, the marriage was anything but peaceful. In October 2024, Rachael appeared on her podcast and made a confession that shocked listeners. She admitted that she and John have huge screaming matches all the time. Not occasionally, not during stressful moments, but constantly. She insisted that these explosive arguments were healthy, that they allowed them to release tension and move on without holding grudges. But to outsiders, the admission sounded less like a healthy relationship and more like a volatile one teetering on the edge. She went on to explain that after their fights, they retreat to separate corners of their home. No apologies are exchanged. Instead, John might pat her on the behind or give her a kiss on the head, and they simply move forward. Some fans found this endearing, a sign of two strong personalities who'd figured out how to coexist. Others found it deeply concerning, a relationship built on conflict rather than communication. Rachael's friends reportedly worry about her blood pressure, and she herself acknowledged that being together all the time is part of the problem. They work together, live together, and rarely spend time apart. For most couples, that kind of constant proximity would be suffocating. For Rachael and John, it's just another day. But the dysfunction in their marriage wasn't the only darkness lurking in Rachael's life. In 2013, tragedy struck her family in a way that would leave permanent scars. Rachael's aunt Geraldine had been working as a house sitter for Rachael's mother, earning $300 a week. One freezing night, she found herself locked out of the house. She didn't have a key, and as temperatures dropped, panic set in. Security footage later showed her desperately trying to break a window with a rock, attempting anything to get inside and escape the cold. But she couldn't get in. She collapsed outside and suffered a fatal heart attack. When family members learned what had happened, some of them blamed Rachael. Why hadn't her aunt been given a key? Why was she left in a situation where being locked out could be deadly? The accusations were brutal, and the pain was compounded when Rachael missed the funeral. She cited work commitments, but to grieving family members, it felt like a betrayal. Her brother defended her, insisting she wasn't responsible, but the damage was done. A rift opened in the family that has never fully healed, and the tragedy became another shadow hanging over Rachael's life. What most people don't know is that Rachael had been preparing for disaster long before any of these scandals broke. Court documents reveal that before she and John married in 2005, she filed paperwork granting him power of attorney. The document gave him sweeping authority over her finances and property, including the power to mortgage, sell, or dispose of any of her assets. It also specified that these powers would remain in effect if she became disabled or incompetent. For a healthy woman in her 30s, it was an unusual move. Most people don't think about power of attorney until they're much older or facing a serious health crisis. So why did Rachael feel the need to put this in place so early? Was it simply smart estate planning, or did she already sense that something was coming? The document raises questions that have never been publicly answered, and in light of recent health concerns, those questions feel more urgent than ever. In September 2024, a video of Rachael began circulating online, and fans were alarmed by what they saw. Her speech was slurred, her words running together in a way that didn't seem normal. One side of her mouth appeared to droop slightly, and her face looked puffy and uneven. The speculation was immediate and intense. Had she suffered a stroke? Was it Bell's palsy? Some people suggested she might have been drinking, while others pointed to Cushing's disease, a hormonal disorder that can cause facial swelling and other symptoms. Rachael didn't address the video directly, but during a podcast appearance, she mentioned she'd had a couple of bad falls recently. She didn't elaborate, and the vague explanation only fueled more concern. Then in May 2025, another video surfaced showing similar speech issues. By June, when she made that rare red carpet appearance, the internet was ablaze with worry. When TMZ reached out for comment, they received a terse no comment from her representatives. For a woman who built her career on openness and relatability, the silence was deafening. The health concerns weren't the only storms Rachael and John had weathered. In 2020, their beloved Adirondack home was destroyed by fire. Rachael later described the devastation, explaining that every speaker, every seam in the walls had melted. It took a full year to rebuild, and just when they'd finally restored the property, Hurricane Ida struck in 2021, causing significant damage all over again. Then, in March 2024, John lost his mother. He posted a tribute calling her a force of nature, and Rachael echoed his grief, mourning the woman who had welcomed her into the family. For most couples, any one of these tragedies would be enough to create distance or resentment. But Rachael and John seemed to operate differently. They chose gratitude over bitterness, focusing on what they still had rather than what they'd lost. Whether that's strength or simply survival instinct is hard to say. Despite the personal chaos, Rachael's professional empire has only grown. In 2023, she ended her 17-season run on daytime television, stepping away from the talk show format that had made her a household name. Instead, she launched Free Food Studios, a production company designed to give her more creative control. In January 2024, she sold a 50% stake in the company to A&E Networks, a deal that solidified her status as not just a television personality, but a legitimate businesswoman. Her net worth is now estimated at $100 million, a staggering figure for someone who once made $40 a week. And through it all, John has been by her side. He gave up his law career entirely, telling people that he now has only one client, and her name is Rachael Ray. He manages her contracts, oversees her brand deals, and handles the legal complexities of running a media empire. But he still plays music with the cringe, still tours when he can, and still carries that quiet regret. Friends say that when he's on tour, he'll call Rachael and say, "I wish I was up there tonight," referring to the headliners on stage. He's successful, wealthy, and married to one of the most famous women in America. But part of him will always be the musician who never got to be the star. In November 2024, Rachael opened up about why she and John never had children. She explained that they have one dog at a time, and that's about as much as we can handle. For a couple constantly fighting, constantly working, and constantly navigating tabloid scandals, the decision makes sense. John spends entire days in his music studio working on songs that most people will never hear. Rachael cooks, makes a nice home, and focuses on her business ventures. They live in separate corners, coming together when they choose to rather than because they have to. It's an unconventional arrangement, one that raises eyebrows and invites judgment. But for them, it seems to work. In August 2024, John posted a birthday tribute to Rachael on Instagram, calling her his forever love and forever home. The post was sweet, affectionate, and gave no hint of the chaos that reportedly defines their daily life. They split their time between New York and Tuscany, the place where their marriage began, and they continue to renew their vows periodically, reaffirming a commitment that outsiders struggle to understand. So what's the truth about Rachael Ray and John Cusimano? After 20 years of marriage, countless scandals, and mounting health concerns, the picture that emerges is one of complexity. This isn't a simple story of love conquering all, nor is it a tale of a marriage held together by convenience or money. It's something stranger, something harder to define. They fight constantly but claim it's healthy. They live separately but say it brings them together. They've faced infidelity rumors, family tragedies, and public humiliation, yet they're still married. Some people see resilience in that, a couple who's figured out how to survive against impossible odds. Others see dysfunction, two people clinging to a relationship that might have run its course years ago. The truth probably lies somewhere in between. Rachael and John have built a life that works for them, even if it doesn't make sense to anyone else. They've survived what would destroy most couples, and whether that's because of love, stubbornness, or something else entirely is a question only they can answer. What's clear is that the fairy tale image they presented at that Tuscan castle in 2005 was never the full story. Behind the smiles and the vow renewals and the Instagram tributes lies a marriage marked by conflict, controversy, and questions that have never been fully answered. The swinger club allegations were never litigated. The health concerns have never been explained. The screaming matches continue, and the separate corners remain. Rachael Ray built an empire by being relatable, by convincing millions of people that she was just like them. But her marriage reveals something different. It reveals a woman who's endured scandals that would break most people, who's fought to protect a relationship that the world doesn't understand, and who's chosen to stay even when walking away might have been easier. Whether that makes her brave or trapped is something each person will interpret differently. What's undeniable is that after 2 decades, the truth about Rachael Ray and John Cusimano is far darker, far stranger, and far more complicated than the story they've tried to tell. And as health concerns mount and the years go by, one has to wonder what other secrets are still waiting to come to light.